Welcome to Moms Who Lead, where each week I talk to another mom who's balancing motherhood with a leadership role at work. Across industries, locations, and backgrounds, we're all facing the same challenges and opportunities. We talk about them here to help you balance your most important job with your career. So many of us have stories to share and advice to give. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to connect with me, Diana Mitchell, on LinkedIn. Now, on to the show. I'm so excited to have Jeannie Andolena here. She is the COO at VEDGEco, and I want to hear more about you. I can't wait to learn more about your family and your company. And so I'm just going to throw it to you, Jeannie. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, Diana. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be joining you and having a conversation today. My name is Jeannie Andolena. I am the Chief Operating Officer at a startup plant-based company called VEDGEco. We ship frozen bulk plant-based foods nationwide, primarily to businesses, restaurants, and food operators, food service operators from coast to coast, including the islands of Hawaii. I'm also a mother, so I have a almost 2-year-old son and a new 5-month-old baby girl. Okay. So, yes, thank you very much.
And I just want to do full disclosure. I'm especially excited to have Jeannie here because I also am vegan and I get very excited to meet vegan companies. Do you mind sharing a little bit about kind of your journey and how you became COO of VEDGEco and how that relates to your own journey as a vegan?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really been such a linchpin obviously in my life. My husband and I decided, it was about 3.5 years ago, we were out to eat and eating veal nonetheless, and decided kind of over dinner, we started talking about the animal welfare aspect of, what's happening in this country with factory farming and the product sourcing and everything. And it kind of made us both really sad, and we're like, we could do something about this potentially. But we put a pin in the conversation, and 24 hours later, we're sitting in the back of a cab in New York City, headed to like a friend's birthday party. And I just turned to my husband and I was like, he was my boyfriend at the time. And I said, hey, we were talking last night about going vegetarian. Like, should we actually do it? And he said, sure, why not? So we decided right then and there, okay, let's try it. We'll go vegetarian. And as we started talking within that 10-minute cab ride, we decided, hey, if we're going to do vegetarian, why not just go vegan and go all the way? Because ultimately, I don't need to get into all the details, but basically, if we're doing this for animal welfare purposes, why pick and choose the issues? So we decided, let's just go vegan. That really started our journey. And that was back in January of, I believe, 2017. And within, the next 6 months, we opened our eyes. We started reading a lot of books, watching a lot of documentaries, and just started really realizing what was happening and the bigger impact beyond just animal welfare that, the factory farming industry was having on the environment. So what started off with, something for animal welfare purposes really turned into an environmental kind of movement and moral structure for our family. And we have since decided to raise our children completely on a plant-based diet. So we've done a ton of research to make sure that we are getting the right nutritional balance. We obviously get a ton of questions from family and friends, and at least originally when my son was born, it was always a common question. But ultimately, we're making sure, yes, he is getting lots and lots of protein yes. and the right vitamins and the right nutrients that he needs to grow. And both of my children were born. I was fully vegan during both of my pregnancies, and both of them were born at almost 9 pounds. So just to squash any things there, it's, we've been able to do this in a very healthy way.
That's awesome. Yeah. My daughter's pediatrician is always like over the moon. She's like, it's always nice to have your daughter come in because all of her blood work is always perfect, and she's perfect. and it makes you feel good, because then if you bring in doctors who maybe didn't have kids come in before who are eating a plant-based diet, and it helps like change minds, and you never know whose family it could impact. So now, yeah. What about VEDGEco? Were you involved in them from the start, or what's the story there?
Yeah, it's interesting. So just to give you a little really quick background on my career, I started off in the brand management space I was kind of classically trained in the consumer packaged goods world for the first large chunk of my career, which taught me a lot about business. And then I went to this startup called Jet.com, did marketing there. It was quickly acquired by Walmart, and so it kind of morphed into a different role, had a back to a large corporate type of situation. And I at the end of the day, I was actually at Walmart when I had my child, my first son. And can dive into a whole world of what that maternity leave and pregnancy looked like and all of that. So happy to talk to you a little bit about that. But ultimately, I was just kind of having a moral and ethical conflict about what I was doing with my career and how I was my own personal and family values that we had started practicing at home around our plant-based diet and caring for the environment and all of these things. And through a series of events that led to me quitting my job and deciding I was going to try being a stay-at-home mom for a while, and then deciding that wasn't the right move for me because I just craved this thing. I craved more. I wanted to keep feeling like I was making this like difference in the world and wanted to work. I liked working. I cold reached out to this person that I saw in a news article on LinkedIn. So he had actually been featured in Veg News, and I messaged him on LinkedIn, and he immediately responded to me that he was looking to grow his team and wanted to bring me on part-time, and I could do part-time work from home, be a mom situation. And we started about a month before VEDGEco launched. I started working with him. His name is Trevor Hitch. He was always incredibly supportive of family life, and I can also tell you more about that. But I started with him back in July of 2020, and then on August 1st, we launched VEDGEco nationwide.
Wow! Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you.
A little tenacity. You never know what's going to happen. We are living in an age where everyone is a LinkedIn message or a tweet away, and you never know what could happen. That's really cool. But let's take it back just a little bit to when you first became a mom, pregnant, whichever, a little over 2 years ago. Where were you in your career? You said you were at Walmart?
Yes. So I actually was on the Jet side of things. So Jet.com at the time. And shortly, probably around when I was about 5 months pregnant, Jet.com ultimately sort of dissolved, and the people that were left, we were just reassigned roles within the Walmart world, a lot of us. So I was kind of just given a role, and it was very stressful for me because I was about to give birth in about 4 months. And luckily for me, Walmart and Jet had a very, very good maternity policy of 6 months. Okay. So we had a great leave. So I kind of had this like carrot dangling in front of me of like 6 months, but you have to do a job that you didn't sign up for 4 months.
Right.
So it was a tricky situation. I was at a middle management level. So I was, still calling a lot of shots, providing a lot of direction. But I wasn't, super senior in the company where I really felt like a ton of ownership over what I was doing. I ended up, I actually was told about 2 months before I went on leave. So first of all, I was required to travel during those last 4 months, which was difficult and not something I know, a lot of people are totally fine with that. But for me personally, I didn't like traveling late in pregnancy. It wasn't something that I felt good about. I wanted to be close to my family, close to my hospital, things like that.
Exhausting.
And it was not to mention it's completely exhausting and wearing like what do you call it, those pressure socks or whatever you call it on the plane. That's like not a glamorous look either.
I would have needed Crocs. Like it would have been bad.
Yeah. It was, oh geez. But so I ended up, I was kind of told, okay, you need to travel, not the best. And then I was told, and you have to find your own replacement to cover for you for 6 months while you're out on leave, which was really wild. So then I was trying to like hire somebody to replace me, and basically was told like your role, it's your responsibility still to make sure your job gets done for the 6 months that you're gone and all these. Anyway, long story short, I didn't really feel a ton of support from the position that I was in. Although, I did the individual team members I worked with were so wonderful, right? Like I worked with parents and they were still like very understanding and very wonderful people. But overall, I still felt a little bit isolated, and ended up taking leave. And it was just a very stressful leave because the whole time that I was gone, I had this guilt kind of thinking of like, do I deserve this leave? Like, am I going to go back to this company in this position that I don't feel fully vested in? I don't know that I want to take my career further with this company. And I felt extremely guilty for being, on a paid maternity leave. And it was really, really challenging. And I think it added a lot of stress and anxiety to my time being a first time mom and just trying to get used to taking care of this child. And my husband at the time was working full time, although he was able to take a lot of paternity as well, which was nice. But it was very tough. It was challenging. So I think when I came out of it and kind of looked back and reflected, my second maternity leave was 1,000 times better than my first, even though it was only 2 weeks in comparison to 6 months. And it's because at the end of the day, it was taking a leave from a job that I love and being in a company and finding a culture that's, where I felt very supported and very at home. So I think it's really important, when I became a new mom, I had so much change happening in my life that having an uncertain career path was just added a lot of pressure and stress. Versus if I had been able to find more of a steady and enjoyable and fulfilling career before that, I think I would have gotten a lot more out of that time.
And I think there's a good lesson there for larger companies in particular, because like you said, Walmart had a really generous leave policy, 6 months, which is phenomenal. And you can have everything on paper, but if there's pieces missing, it might not be the perk that you think it is. So that's a good lesson, because I know, Walmart can get a tough time in the media for employees, but it seems like for you, and I think this happens to, I can speak for myself. I think this happens to a lot of moms now. So I have our sample here of 2, but still that when you're about to bring a human into the world, it really does make you think about where you are, where you're going, and where you want to be. And I have a friend who's a former colleague as well, and she just had a baby, and she's thinking same thing, like where am I in this world, and where do I want to be, and what's going to help me be the best mom and person I can be, as well as move my career where it needs to go. And so that was a big decision for you, and kudos to you for making it at a difficult time and doing what was best for you, but also best for the company at the same time.
Thank you. Yeah. And Walmart is actually a wonderful employer with like all their benefits and everything they offer. It wasn't the right employer for me, personally, exactly. but and I think had I felt like I had more ownership of, more choice and ownership of the role that I was going to be moving into and things like that, I think it could have been a very different journey for me. But it just was, how things had to happen at the time. So,
and look, where, everything does happen, here you go, and here you are in a fulfilling role. That's cool. I love hearing about people's journeys, because something that feels so stressful and like such a hard decision at the time, when you look back on it, it's like, wow, what if it's like, there's like a bunch of movies like that, but I remember this movie, Mr. Destiny, like, what if my life had just gone this different way? I'm dating myself. That's like a Jim Belushi movie from like the 90s. It's like the most typical thing, like Rene Russo, like every night. Anyway, but like what would have happened if I had chosen A instead of B, or if I had toughed it out another year, or whatever the case may be. But so when you came back, then you didn't go back to Walmart at all?
I did go back. So I wanted to give it a shot and see, it was in April of 2020 that I went back. So everything was fully remote. So I was kind of staying at home, and at the time, like I said, my husband was also working full time. And as a mom, I felt like, it was of the two of us, given where I was in my career, kind of questioning whether I wanted to stay and where he was, I felt as though the role of childcare landed on me. And I felt like, so I was like, okay, I will be, because we had to be home and I had a 7-month-old baby. I was trying to be both full-time mom and full-time employee, remote. And it was very, very challenging to balance that.
Did you have anyone in your life, either directly through work or even through family or friends, who had been, in that kind of management or middle management position, who could kind of give you advice or even just lend an ear? Was there anyone that you had that really helped you gain perspective or just be a sounding board?
Yes. So at that time, the previous president of Jet.com, she was sort of a mentor of mine, and she is also a mother and a very successful businesswoman. And she had given me this advice when I had gotten pregnant. I kind of met with her and spoke to her about careers and all of this. And her advice to me was, look, you can be 100% into your career and you can be the best possible career person you can be. You can also be 100% with your children and you can be the best possible mom you can be. But you can't be 200% ultimately. You can't be 100% of both. It's just not possible. So we put a lot of pressure and stress on ourselves. And we as parents, working moms and working dads, like, we want to be perfect and the best parent and be perfect and the best employee, but it's literally impossible to do both. And you just have to accept that it's going to ebb and flow. And sometimes you give more to your kids and sometimes you give more to your career, but ultimately you just need to be the best working parent that you can be, and understand and give yourself some grace and give yourself some passes, because otherwise you will just live a life of stress and anxiety and you will never be happy with yourself ultimately. So
yeah. And kids can pick up on that too. There's a way to find balance. And I find this just, for whatever reason, a lot of moms, especially younger moms in my network in marketing roles, tend to gravitate toward me and like ask me for advice. And I don't know why. I guess I'm the sage elder. I'm 40, my daughter's 3. So I had my daughter later in life and in my career, but I guess I give this wise perspective. But I do feel like we are so used to, and I'm not some raging feminist either, but I feel like we're always so used to having to prove ourselves more anyway, that once we have children, we are like 110, like on everything. And yet 50, 60, 70% of what we can deliver is probably 80, 90, 100% of what other people do, just because we're so used to always having to work harder and perform at the very highest level. And so I think you really nailed it when you said, just give yourself a break, give yourself grace, and look at what you've accomplished, not what you're missing in that like heralded everything, because we feel like we need to do it all. You don't need to do it all, but if you do enough and you're trying your hardest, it sounds sappy, but it's true. It's real life. It's
so true. It's so true. And we get blinded looking at social media, looking at people we deem as perfect mothers on Instagram and business people. We see their successes on like LinkedIn and other social platforms, and you want to hold yourself to this really high standard, and you can't. You have to be accepting of just the fact that you're trying your best. That's all you can give. And that's something my new boss, the CEO of VEDGEco, always reiterates, is all you can do is your best. And that's it. Amazing. Just try your best. And that's okay.
The peace that you get with knowing that that's true, not only that it's said, but that it's lived, is amazing when you get to that place and you find that company where everything just clicks. That's really awesome. Do you have any stories like superhero moments, or the opposite? Like for me, it's when I was on a work call and my daughter came in what I call her Hugh Hefner sweater, because it was like this like velour maroon thing, and she refused to wear a shirt underneath this. So she came in like bare chested and like poked her head in on a Teams meeting. And I'm like, oh, this is my daughter, Hef. And that was one of the moments where I was like, okay, maybe all of my ducks aren't in a row this morning. So one of those moments, or one of those, nailed it, mom moments as well. Anything come to mind? You don't have to have a half moment. But
it's not. I don't have a half moment, but I will tell you that my husband the other day was showing me old photos, and not old photos, but photos from a couple months ago, and he was like, and here you are on your laptop mid work call, breastfeeding your daughter. I was like, wow, like yes, I do this, like I'm still breastfeeding here. Like it's kind of wild when you like step back and look at yourself and look at what you're doing through that lens. You're like, wow, I'm like juggling. I am superwoman here. I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
Like I can do it all, but
Yes, you
to the
can.
best
That's
that I can.
awesome.
So
Good for you. Now, do you have any like ongoing? This is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Like, where is there for moms in positions like ours to go for like support? And there's Facebook groups and stuff, but Facebook groups bring out the best and worst of people. But I'm just,
yeah.
is there someone that you still have? So you're like your former boss. Is there someone that you still have too that you go to either bounce ideas off of or just kind of get a little perspective if you feel like things are a little frazzled?
Yeah. It's probably something where I wish that there were more opportunities for these types of groups, because I do feel like I would really benefit. And I am in a Facebook group, and I do have people, people that I, used to be closer with. But right now, I think that I get the most, honestly, the most comfort from my husband and talking. He's now a stay-at-home father. And so we kind of talk about this balance about what's right for our family, because he carries a lot of guilt that he's not working, and I carry a lot of guilt that I'm not momming enough. And so we've been able to have these deep conversations and really, talk each other through these feelings and get to a really good place together. And then it's also, I've also been able to speak with my team. There's a lot of moms that are on my direct team. And having those people as nice sounding boards and understanding that, they're in the same position where they have needs for their kids. And I try to always be there and always let them, like, family comes first. I drive that mantra home as much as I can, to always prioritize your family and prioritize what your children need, and work comes second. And my boss is the same way. He instilled that on me. And through that, I've been able to have kind of a lot of peace as well, because I know I can put up an away message, walk away, and deal with whatever I need to handle on the mom side, and will not be, judged or ridiculed, or it will not, be a negative on my career by any means. So
It's funny how when your child is running around with like poop on her hands and a diaper, which is a true, I must drop everything emergency. The perspective you gain from those instances when you get an email where someone feels like it should be an emergency, like the ability to be able to discern what is truly an emergency, it really does give you perspective, because to your point, like if you have to set that away message, when you have an organization that respects and doesn't artificially inflate everything to this needs your attention right now, and there's that mutual respect of knowing that if it's a true emergency, they're going to text me, they're going to call me. That's really powerful. And I think it can't be underestimated. And that's a cultural thing that I think a lot of organizations could learn, because it's not just for, moms who are working or leading. It's for every employee, that when you know that if something's really, if there's a fire really burning, then that's truly an emergency. It allows you to have that balance and that peace. I'm using peace a lot, but it's so important because our lives are a little hectic, and that's okay. There's so joy in those moments. I find even in the poop moments, you find a little joy. Like I say to my husband, we get to have these silly little moments. And because, we tried for a long time to have my daughter, and my husband was a stay-at-home dad. He just learned yesterday that he got a job. And so I'm stepping back a little, but still staying with SSI. And my husband's going back to work after almost 3.5 years. And so it's funny, we're kind of the opposite, but you're right, that the communication, knowing you've got someone on your side at home and at work, it's very powerful. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that that's a lesson for leaders in every organization. What are the little things, not necessarily the policies, but how can you create that culture? Because it's going to help you attract more talent. It's going to help you keep the talent you've got. And it's going to help build a culture of trust and respect among your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's when you're working, especially in a remote environment, it can be incredibly challenging to compartmentalize and to focus 100% on work, and then when you leave work, focus 100% on family. The lines are just completely blurred, and it is very difficult. But if you know that, hey, you can, we use Slack. We put this away message up. Like, I am not at my computer right now, but if you absolutely need me, you have my cell phone number, call me or text me, or call me more so even than text me, call me if it's a true emergency. It allows me to be like, okay, I can walk away. I can leave work behind, and I can really try hard to force myself to not think about it for a little while I'm spending some quality time with my children. It's so important to be able to do that. And I think the other piece of it too, the other thing, I'm managing now a team of about 12 people. And of them, there's a couple parents, but a lot of them don't have children. And one of the things that I'm really trying to instill too is that it's not just parents that need this type of balance and need, to have this understanding that your family comes first. It's everybody. Mm-hmm. So whether, whether you need to be there for your parents, a good friend, a sibling, whoever it is in your life that you have a close relationship with, that comes first, whether it's your kids or not. Like, your personal relationships, those come first. And if you need to take time away to go take care of personal matters, or just to spend quality time with your vacation, whatever it is, do that. And I always want to make sure that people understand, like, yes, it takes things to a much different level when you're a parent. Trust me, I get it, I know, but there are still people that depend on you. There are still important relationships in your life, and all of those need to be treated with the same level of respect within an organization. I think that's just very fundamental.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And especially right now in the situation that we're all living in, to have that support is critical.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us where, if people want to learn more about VEDGEco, if there's any restaurants or anyone who's listening right now who's interested in learning more about you, where they would go?
Yeah. So you can visit VEDGEco.com. It's VEDGECO.com. Or we're on Instagram at veg.co. And ultimately, come check us out. We have bulk plant-based food available by the wholesale case. We have a whole slew of restaurants that are, purchasing our products, and we like to shout out and give kudos to them on our Instagram channel very often, or on our website. We have a blog that's up. So please, check us out if you're looking to find more plant-based dishes in your area and eat more plant-based food, and help spread the word, because we're only a year in and we're scrappy and we're growing and we're excited about the movement. So,
well, thank you so much, Jeannie. I appreciate it. And guys, make sure to check out VEDGEco. And thanks so much for being here. That was great.
Thank you, Diana. Appreciate you having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for sitting in with us this week. My hope is that you feel supported, understood, and heard. I appreciate that you took the time to be here. Let me send a quick shout out to our subscribers who join me here every week. I am so honored. And if you haven't already, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. My URL is linkedin.com/in/Diana Mitchell 716. Take care out there, everyone.